Your Thursday forecast calling for increasing clouds throughout the day with scattered showers and storms likely in the afternoon. Daytime highs in the mid-80s. Thursday night, scattered showers and storms before daylight, otherwise lows in the lower 60s. Friday through Sunday, we're looking for a chance of scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms each day, otherwise partly to mostly sunny with daytime highs in the mid-80s. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
First impressions are everything, and your driveway is the first impression of your home. For your business, an attractive and spacious parking lot by Pyramid Paving will make you stand out from the crowd. Rely on the expertise of Pyramid Paving. Our team rejuvenates and enhances the appearance of your property, ensuring it stays fresh, contemporary, and enjoyable. Experience the artistry of our skilled craftsmen and elevate the functionality of your property. Contact Pyramid Paving today.
Joe Thomas in the morning. Thank you for joining in, letting us do what we do for you here on our YouTube channel, as well as the Rumble channel there as well, T-minus, and join us in Gypsy Hill Park on Saturday morning for Vets to raise money for the VFW. I got an email saying, Joe, you know, Memorial Day is for the vets who didn't come. I understand that, but it's time to think about those who served and to raise money for a veterans charity like VFW is worth it. So join us there. But, you know, that points out the world we live in where everyone, you know, can find some reason. And certainly plenty of folks. And you're absolutely right on the subject of Memorial Day versus Veterans Day. And so that's fair and understandable. We get to, and I understand it, but we're going to be there. It's a great car show, and it's going to be fun. It's more than just vets, even though it's vets for vets. You can bring your hot hatch, your lowered mini pickup truck, whatever it may be you want to show off. Please, classics. Please, anyone with a 69 Grand Prix, you'll get special attention from the guy broadcasting live from Vets for Vets at Gypsy Hill Park. It's $10 admission for your car. First 200 cars get a dashboard plaque for their participation. There'll be some cash prizes as well, and we will just have a great time. And it's the coming out party of the radio station at 101.1 and 1240 and 98.9. So people will be able to, you've read all about it. What is it going to sound like? Who knows? Probably a lot like this, because it'll be me and a microphone and our friends at Pyramid Paving. So from there we grow, and it begins Saturday morning. So I hope you can join us. And then it continues Memorial Day weekend ceremonies in Earlysville on Monday. We'll be broadcasting live. Steve Harvey, our friend from First Free Coffee Bar, will be bringing some coffee down. We'll have some prizes. Oh, and both events we're going to have free giveaways. My friends at American Gramophone Records have given us a whole bunch of patriotic Americana CDs from Mannheim Steamroller, including their special remaster and re-recording of the seminal hit that actually made American Gramophone Records and Mannheim Steamroller, Convoy. People get this, and we have them two different ways. We'll have physical CDs, which I'm hoping will be here by Saturday morning. We'll also have MP3 downloads, so you'll be able to download the whole album for free if you want as well to your player. But a lot of people don't know that story of Mannheim Steamroller, tangential, apropos of nothing really, except that it's an American success story. They were making TV commercials for businesses very successfully in the Atlanta area, and one of their clients was a truck dealer, and they created, this was the heyday of CB radio and all of that, so they created this character, C.W. McCall, to basically be the spokesperson for this truck dealership. And it was so widely popular. People would call radio stations and request the commercials. It's like, because they were funny, they were quirky, they were musical. So people would call the radio station and say, when are you going to play that C.W. McCall commercial again? So at some point they decided just to break down and record an entire album, an entire song out of it, and it became a huge, novelty hit. I don't even think it's a novelty hit, especially with the truck convoys that we watched just a smattering of years ago. All those truckers in Canada and in the United States, and honestly, the farmers in Europe as well. All these convoys that were convening on these authoritarian capitals to fight for their liberty. The resurgence of C.W. McCall and Convoy, really Mannheim Steamroller. So this CD we're giving away, we'll have entry forms. We only have a limited supply of them. We'll also have bumper stickers. My friends at Sir Speedy putting together some bumper stickers for us. And, as our financial backer says, don't F it up. Well, he says more than that, but that's basically the F. So Sir Speedy making us look good at this event on Saturday and beyond on Monday as well. But you can enter to win these CDs from Mannheim Steamroller. It's a great. There's an amazing version of the Battle Hymn of the Republic on this CD. It's a great CD, but it includes this re-recording of Convoy. So if you've never and you didn't know, and you said, oh, I had no idea that they were C.W. McCall. That's where they got the money to start American Gramophone and do their own thing. They had so much money they could start their own record label, and then who's really going to tell them, that Christmas stuff, I don't get it. They were just able to go, and Chip was terrific in that. Coming up this morning, we didn't get a chance to have Chap Peterson on with us, Virginia senator, who famously battled his own party. And there's going to be a little of that coming up today, as well as I took some flack because we must have been over the target in the Virginia Senate primaries from yesterday's program. But Chap Peterson will be on the program today. Also, Scott Shepard from the Free Enterprise Project. The shareholder season continues, and he's going to get us an update. McDonald's and I think Apple was recently, and they get enough. What they do at Free Enterprise Project is they get enough voting positions so that they can attend these shareholder meetings and then bring up resolutions fighting diversity, equity, and inclusion and ESG investments. As that also, oh my gosh, the money is flowing. Speaking of the Virginia Senate race, Tim Kaine again saying, look at how much magic mystery money I'm able to deliver to Virginia. We'll get into the green old deal, as my dear friend Chris Horner calls it, the world's second oldest profession. I mean, just billions of dollars flowing into the Commonwealth of Virginia. Why, you say? Why, Joe? Why in the world would that be the case? Because Virginia's in play. Glenn Youngkin admitted it couple of days ago this week. Polls, last two presidential polls, have Virginia at 1 and 2 percentage points rather than the 10 percentage points, which is what it was in 2020. As even Larry Sabato at the Larry Sabato Institute for getting Larry Sabato's name mentioned wherever Larry Sabato's name could be mentioned from UVA, admitted that the race is going to be much closer in Virginia. In quoting Larry, he said, much more like 2016 when Hillary only won by, I guess, 4 and change points. Clark weighing in on Convoy through the YouTube text. You can comment there, or you can make the live phone call. Live phone calls to 434-882-4217. or emails to jtinthemorningradio@gmail.com. But Dr. Clark, using the YouTube chat function, says, Convoy is truly Americana. I could see the bridge was lined with bears, but I didn't have a doggone dime. Pigpen, this here's the rubber duck. I'm just not going to pay no toll. So we crashed through the gate doing 88 and said, let those truckers roll. Yes, quoting and believe me, we dodged a bullet. YouTube is still feeding our program, despite the fact that we used a small smattering of copyrighted music yesterday when we dropped in a little of Kid Rock's Podunk for a story that we're going to circle back to in a moment. Apologies to commentariat member Jen Psaki. But we'll send a throwback Thursday to yesterday's stories regarding authoritarians and emails and contacts of that nature. But we have in those subsidies for green energy, more and more people are being incentivized to do the things that they say are green. And again, you'll listen to folks who have been just Stockholm syndromed into, yeah, this is great. It's going to be green and it's going to save you money. I mean, once we've spent other people's money on it. Oh, and real quick, and there's many folks, as a matter of fact, when we go to break, you'll see our advert for Monday morning's events with the Bradley T. Arms Veterans of the Foreign Wars group on Monday in Earlysville. Bradley T. Arms is also the name that graces the U.S. Post Office in Charlottesville. It is the name that graces the Marine Corps League detachment here in Charlottesville. Bradley T. Arms was a Marine from Charlottesville who lost his life in Afghanistan and got a neat fetting. The Covenant School, where he had gone to school, has now dedicated their American flag installation in his name. It's a very neat thing there. Also, more taxpayer money being spent on property rights. And where do property rights end versus the greater good? We're going to get into that as it relates to Afton Mountain and the Inn at Afton, which I guess at one point was a Holiday Inn, or no, Howard Johnson's, judging by the design of the building in its entry parking lots. But this, if you've ever driven Interstate 64 east and westbound, westbound more so, you'll see what had once been probably a fairly lucrative operation up there right on the Blue Ridge Parkway and staring down over the beauty of the Charlottesville side of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and went into dereliction. And I'll get into the story because the story is classic. It's a story of a property owner who didn't like the way the county was doing things, so stopped participating, basically just took his jacks and went home, and we'll get into that as well. And so we'll circle all that coming up for you as well. Did I leave? Oh, and hey, tell me if you've heard this one before as we go into Memorial Day weekend. The German government has announced that they're going to start arresting Jewish leaders, or at least one particular Jewish leader. Tell me if you've heard this one before. Appeasement? Anyone? It's funny to see the Germans on this side of appeasement.
First impressions are everything, and your driveway is the first impression of your home. For your business, an attractive and spacious parking lot by Pyramid Paving will make you stand out from the crowd. Rely on the expertise of Pyramid Paving. Our team rejuvenates and enhances the appearance of your property, ensuring it stays fresh, contemporary, and enjoyable. Experience the artistry of our skilled craftsmen and elevate the functionality of your property. Contact Pyramid Paving today.
Memorial Day is a time to celebrate those who gave it all so we can have it all here in the United States. And we celebrate in Earlysville on Monday morning as we broadcast live on the new WTON from the Earlysville preparations for their Memorial Day celebration, which will happen shortly before 9 o'clock. And join us for that. We'll have first free coffee for those, and that's the name of the coffee shop, not that you first come, first serve, won't get free. We'll also have some goodies for you to win and some bumper stickers as well as we broadcast live from Earlysville for Memorial Day on the new WTON radio.
This is the Racing Wire Minute with Brian Belansky.
Penalties from the brawl. That story next.
The Racing Wire Minute is presented by
Learn more at She Can STEM. A message brought to you by the Ad Council.
NASCAR has weighed in. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., if he doesn't appeal, is $75,000 lighter in his checking account. That was a fine NASCAR handed down for the post-race brawl Stenhouse started after the All-Star race. 2 of Stenhouse's team members were suspended, one for 8 races, the other 4. Stenhouse's dad, he has an indefinite ban from the racetrack. The severity of the penalties was in part due to the time that passed between the on-track incident and the fight, 2 hours. It's hard to call the fight heat of the moment when it happened 2 hours later. Stenhouse says he hasn't decided if he'll appeal.
Your Thursday forecast calling for increasing clouds throughout the day with scattered showers and storms likely in the afternoon. Daytime highs in the mid-80s. Thursday night, scattered showers and storms before daylight, otherwise lows in the lower 60s. Friday through Sunday, we're looking for a chance of scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms each day, otherwise partly to mostly sunny with daytime highs in the mid-80s. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
Joe Thomas in the morning. Thank you for joining in, being part of the scene. So yesterday we had quite the brouhaha here on the program regarding Virginia's Virginia's Senate primary, and comments made first over the dismissal of questions regarding a story that had been documented, and even now competitive media outlets are saying, the story that the young lady from the Gannett Group published in the Times, the news leader in Stanton, is buttoned up. It's documented. It's all there. The question is, where did the money go, and why did it not go to any of the 2023 candidates, including several of the folks who made these allegations regarding Hung Kao, were people who were promised to get campaign contributions. That's never a good look. So to hearken back to Throwback Thursday, of course, it begins with this New York City-based podcast where Hung Kao was, instead of going to podunk radio shows and internet shows in the Commonwealth of Virginia, disparages the Stanton News Leader as a podunk newspaper. When the host asked regarding this story, which came out in April, regarding his super PAC, which it appears, as you watch the story unfold, that he used to get himself kind of out in the public eye and also raise some money. And so we brought this up, and two of his opponents checked in on the program. Jonathan Emord, constitutional attorney, author of the book Authoritarians, and Eddie Garcia, who's an outsider. And that's where this email comes into JT in the Morning Radio at gmail.com. Frank writes, I know you love the sainted underdogs and outsiders in these political campaigns, Joe, but you need to drop this nothing burger regarding Hung Kao. Point of order. 434-882-4217. Is the story again a nothing burger? The email goes on to say, he's the only candidate with the backing to do battle with the Soros money Kaine always has, and Trump as much as endorsed him at CPAC over the other backbenchers that were there. These other guys are one white supremacist rally short of being Corey Stewart. Get on board, Joe, and stop doing your left-wing media impression. And hey, I'm not gonna sit here and say, well, I'm not gonna answer those podunk questions. But you raise several interesting points in there. First and foremost, nobody. It doesn't matter who they are. A descendant of the Koch brothers himself could run for this office, and they're not going to have as much money as Tim Kaine. Never going to happen, especially now that the race is within a couple of percentage points. At least Virginia is, based on its presidential polling there. So this idea that Hung Kao has more money than everyone else is certainly fair, and it is, from what I see, true. But that doesn't mean he's going to have more money than Tim Kaine. Also, in this day and age, we're starting to see more and more frequently campaigns that are victorious without having more money. It used to be pretty much that's the guarantee. You'd see the money, you'd see the financial statements and say, well, there's your winner right there, the person with all the money, because they can buy the TV ads. And TV ads don't do as much anymore. By the way, do we have the email, the voicemail that Big John left about campaign ads? All right. Because it relates to political action committees. And I don't think it's wrong, since we're watching this trial in New York City, saying that the National Enquirer colluded with Donald Trump's fixer to keep a story silent regarding sexual dalliances that might have tarnished his reputation, such that it was at that time before he was elected president in 2016. And the premise of the district attorney's case, Alvin Bragg, as I understand it, says that suppressing that information is tantamount to, what did he call it? Oh, that's right, election interference. And I think, again, another debatable point. Is not reporting something. We just played the clip for you yesterday's program of Joy Behar, certainly not a reporter, not a journalist, but a member of the commentariat, saying that she withholds criticisms of Joe Biden. A, means she has some, surprise, but B, is that election interference? If Joy Behar doesn't say she thinks Joe Biden was wrong about something, is that election interference? And be careful, because you're walking out on the thin ice where our other senator, Mark Warner, chair of the House Intelligence Committee, is out there saying that this information could be disinformation. It's what empowers people like Nina Jankowicz. Remember our crazy head of the Disinformation Bureau at the Department of Justice. So be careful when you start talking about whether or not you should report a story. It is a story, and I've checked the documents. It does appear to be a reasonable question that Hung Cow refuses to answer, now under the banner of, I'm not answering the questions from some podunk newspaper. And within that, as I said yesterday, the questions are, what level do you judge podunk newspapers? Certainly, you would answer the Amazon Times, the Washington Post. But does the Richmond Times-Dispatch count? What about the Norfolk papers? I guess they would count, but maybe Richmond is too small of a town to count in that list. Certainly, Charlottesville is as small as Stanton, so you wouldn't answer any questions out of Charlottesville. Danville, smaller even than that, or Lynchburg, certainly not a big town. You see what I'm saying? Roanoke, are these going to be dismissed as podunk towns that don't deserve to get to ask a question? And the question was, okay, we have these documents from the 2023 Political Action Committee. Oh, wow, that's very loud. That was very loud. That was loud and interrupting. Hang on the line for 1 second. Now there's a telephone call. The question is, we have the documents that say in 2023 you went around and did a lot of fundraising under the banner, and we have the statements that say you were doing it to give money to 2023 candidates. Yet the VPAP and the State Board of Elections results don't show any of that money going to that. However, we do see some of that money going to buy address lists and contributors lists for your Senate campaign. Also, money is you need that for it, but asking the question is being dismissed as left-wing media attacks, and does it fall under election interference if this young lady at Gannett didn't report it? Good question, right? Let me see if we got answers here, since the phone rang. Good morning. You're on the air with Joe Thomas in the morning. Who's this?
Hey, Joe, it's Clark.
Morning, Clark.
So, a couple of thoughts from what you've covered so far.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about calling the news show Podunk Radio?
Because radio has a much more liberal view of fair use. And believe me, I've had to sign all the deals with ASCAP, BMI, GMR, all the music publishing groups, to pay my fees to the agencies, as it were. But we do get a discount because we're a spoken word format. But you're allowed to play up to 30 seconds of something, and certainly as it relates to a story. But you know from the old radio show, we used to use Kid Rock's Podunk all the time as bumper music, because there is such an attitude of even in Virginia, the flyover country kind of counties, Buchanan and Wythe and Buckingham and Nelson and all these places where it's, I don't need to go there. They're just all, hicks from the sticks.
Well, I was just thinking, if it's a podunk newspaper, you could be Podunk Radio there.
Oh,
hey,
that's an even better idea for our fundraisers and things like that. We can get to one of these amusement companies and get one of those big water towers and call it a podunk tank.
There you go.
I like that. Or maybe put mud in it. Anyway, what was your other point?
Well, the other thing, before I get to what I was really calling about, one white supremacy rally short of, Joe, I live in Northeast Alabama, which is supposed to be the most racist state you could possibly have. I want to know when they're having the next white supremacy rally. Seems like if they were having those things, I'd hear about it. Now, my other question about that.
That reference, by the way, is Tim Kaine's last opponent was Corey Stewart, former Prince William County chair, who during the course of his campaign showed up at a rally held by the guy who wound up, being the spearhead of the August 12th David Duke reunions, and perhaps a master's class in vetting where you're going. He just, his campaign saw big crowds and said, we better go to where the big crowds are. And always a perilous decision-making tree. But in any event, go back.
The next time they have this thing, what percentage of the participants will be undercover government agents?
Oh, we don't have a number on that. We do have the existence of government agents incognito, let's say, or undercover.
Right.
We do know they exist. We just don't know to what level.
Well, I think it's a dark blue polo shirt tucked into khaki trousers with a pair of hiking boots. But anyway, Joe, the left likes to coin terms and control the narrative through terms, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure. The echo chamber.
We got to learn to play that game. We got to learn to play that game. Now, a couple different things going on. Saw an article, American Thinker. People with means are not saving money. They're not saving money because the money they put in the bank will not buy what it would buy when they put it in the bank when they go to take it out. So they're just spending money. A lot of it is on luxury spending. This is not a good thing, Joe.
Well, no, it's not. And the indication, I saw a story that similar to that, Dr. Clark, reminding that in the fall of the German Weimar Republic, workers were going and cashing their paychecks at lunchtime because the marks that they were getting would buy more at lunchtime than they would at 6 o'clock when they got out of work.
You've taken me exactly where I want to go, Joe. When there is no future, when people feel there is no future, they do not save for that future. Now, ironically, this current administration is telling us how great things are because of people's prolific spending
on luxury items.
They
remember
are.
when they had the yacht tax and things like that?
Yes. Now, you referenced the Weimar Republic.
Mm-hmm.
Joe, we got to quit saying Bidenomics, and we have to go to the Weimar Republic.
The Weimar Republic. That's an interesting turn of the
That's where we are, Joe.
I hear you, my friend. You hang in there. We'll fight it off as we can, but you have a good morning, sir.
Take care, Joe. Looking forward to
First impressions are everything, and your driveway is the first impression of your home. For your business, an attractive and spacious parking lot by Pyramid Paving will make you stand out from the crowd. Rely on the expertise of Pyramid Paving. Our team rejuvenates and enhances the appearance of your property, ensuring it stays fresh, contemporary, and enjoyable. Experience the artistry of our skilled craftsmen and elevate the functionality of your property. Contact Pyramid Paving today.
Hi, this is Joe Thomas. Join us Saturday morning at Gypsy Hill Park for Vets for Vets to raise money for the VFW in Stanton. Gypsy Hill Park, 10 a.m. It's not just Corvettes. Whatever your ride is, whether it's Mopar or a Mustang or even a hot hatchback, something that you drift with, come on down and show it off at Gypsy Hill Park. It's a $10 admission fee for your car. Dash plaques for the first 200 cars that join in on the celebration. There'll be music, food, and a live broadcast from me, Joe Thomas, in the morning, Gypsy Hill Park, to kick off the Memorial Day weekend with Vets for Vets to raise money for the VFW in Central Virginia. Join us there at Gypsy Hill Park starting at 10 with Joe Thomas in the morning. Memorial Day weekend is somebody who truly deserves a memorial to his service to the Commonwealth of Virginia. I'm sure he'd be the first one to say no thank you, and really who puts bow ties on statues anymore anyway. He is former Virginia Senator J. Chapman Peterson. Everyone just knows him as Chap Peterson of Fairfax. Chap, it's so good to catch up with you again. How have you been doing this year?
Joe, first of all, thank you for having me on, and hello to everybody out there. I'm doing great. Looking forward to Memorial Day weekend. My oldest daughter, is coming down with her husband, and we're going to go out to the family farm in Middlesex County on the Rappahannock River, and meeting an old friend of mine, Delegate Albert Pollard, and we go out on the river and do some water skiing and just get out there, do a little fishing, and we have a family reunion. We have a farm down there, and we'll get probably 40 or 50 cousins from all over the United States that'll come back. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be great.
Well, I'm glad you have family around and so much. And I was mentioning this around Mother's Day. I said family is a superpower. I truly believe that, not to slag our friends at Disney that seem to own all the superheroes nowadays. But family is a superpower to me anyway, and it gives you strength to do things. A lot of people say, oh, how did you do that? And we will get into the how did you do that part with Chap. But do you agree that family and having connections to family members is a superpower?
Yeah, I write about this in my book, which I was very lucky to be raised by two wonderful people, my parents, and I married a wonderful woman, and I've had 4 great kids. And to be honest, I've had ups and downs both in my legal and political career. But the family's been there for me. They stood with me every step of the way. And by the way, I've got a very diverse family. I've got cousins, crossing the political spectrum, literally on all sides. But we've always stuck together. We are a family, and I love it. I mean, it also keeps you humble. I mean, when you you have, I'll always be my big sister's little brother, and I'll always be. A cousin to I have 23 cousins in my mother's family, and we're very close. And it keeps you humble, but it also gives you strength. Yeah,
and it keeps you sharp, too, because I'm sure these family gatherings, there's a lot of conversation. So you mentioned the book, and the book is called Rebel. It's out in paperback. I think it's perfect for beach reading there, and it chronicles, for those who don't know, Chap Peterson, the reason he's a former state senator is he was primaried last year and lost that primary challenge to run in a very heavily Democratic-leaning district. The subtitle of Rebel is The Story of a Democratic State Senator Who Fought Against the COVID-19 Lockdowns. And fought is almost an understatement, Chap, because not only did you write some eloquent treatise, your letter to the Fairfax County School Board perhaps is one of the great moments where somebody is just laying the logic out and almost incontrovertible. Battled against is an understatement, to say the least, isn't it? Take us into how that all began.
Sure. Well, first of all, it is a story of a state. I was a Virginia state senator for 16 years. I was a Democrat. I recognize your radio audience probably may tilt a little bit more on the conservative side, which is totally cool. But I represented what had been a Democratic-leaning district in Fairfax County, and my record, I felt like, I was somewhat independent, but, also had Democratic votes up until kind of 2020 when the state shut down during COVID. And to be honest, and excuse my blunt language, I was like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
We had, I as a lawyer, I represented small businesses, most of which were first-generation Americans in Fairfax County, and people were shut down for months. These are sort of the small family restaurants, nail salons, dry cleaners that were not allowed to open for 100 days, and they had no way to pay their mortgage, no way to pay their employees. Some were able to get a PPP loan, but that was a stopgap. And I was like, well, hold on, what are we doing here? These people need to make a living. And I kept asking the governor's office, well, where's the evidence that the lockdown is, quote, saving lives, unquote? Everyone's like, follow the science. I'm like, well, what's the science? And so kind of my first step to sort of start off the journey was I filed the lawsuit in the summer of 2020 to reopen the state. And I filed that literally, it was the day after Richmond had seen the riots that had happened there. And I called them riots. And there was sort of graffiti sprayed all over the Supreme Court. It's one of the pictures in my book. And so I filed that lawsuit to reopen the state. And this was in June, so this is 3 months after the lockdowns had begun. After about a 2-month fight in court, we were able to basically force the governor to lift up the most arduous restrictions and allow retail businesses to open again. But that sort of got me off on the wrong foot with a lot of people. Mm-hmm. And then and that turned out, and I thought, well, that's we won that, and that's kind of over and done with. And then, of course, we had the issue with the schools. And the schools had been closed in the spring of 2020, and that was a terrible decision. It didn't save any lives, but I'm like, okay, people were being overly cautious. Now we're going to get back on track, and in the fall of 2020, we're going to reopen the school system. And I had a daughter that was going to be a freshman in Charlottesville. I had another daughter who was going to be a senior. I had a son who was going to be a sophomore in high school, and then I had my little girl who was going to be, and I think at that time she was 4th grade. Mm-hmm. And then we got news that Fairfax County Public Schools was not going to reopen. And I'm like, well, hold on, what do you mean they're not going to reopen?
Yeah.
I mean, that to me was madness. I mean, these kids need to be learning, and remote learning was quite candidly a joke. Mm. And it was obvious to me that these decisions were being driven by politics, not by science. And so I sort of, suffered through silently for a couple months, and then in December of 2020, I rounded up a coalition, and in January, when we went back into session, I said, here's the deal, guys. The schools are either going to reopen or there's going to be no state budget. In other words, if these kids are not back in classrooms learning, then we're going to shut down the state and no one's getting paid. Not the teachers, nobody. Mm-hmm. Because there is no more important issue. There is no more important issue, and I'm just not going to let their lives be held hostage by a bunch of fear. Mm-hmm. And so we had a huge fight with that, and we won 26-13, and I talk about that struggle, and I give kudos to one of the most wonderful people I met in public life, Dr. Siobhan Donovan, who was a great state senator from Henrico, and she pulled the Republicans together. And again, I go into detail in my book, but I called her the day before Christmas Eve, and said, Siobhan, we got to turn this around. These kids have been out of school for almost a year now. It's ridiculous. And I need the Republicans to back me 100% because I knew I was going to get opposition on the Democratic side. Mm-hmm. And pulled that together. She was a wonderful advocate. She actually filed Senate Bill 1303. I had it in a budget amendment, but she filed the Senate bill. And basically, she and myself and Joe Morrissey, we formed a critical mass, and we took the position that the state, we would not support a state budget unless it required the reopening of schools. In other words, if schools did not reopen for in-person learning, then nobody was getting paid. Mm-hmm. Teachers weren't getting paid. State police weren't getting. We weren't going to pay anybody because I would shut the whole state down unless the kids were back in school. It was that important. And I was serious. I was serious as a heart attack. And so we were able to get the bill passed. The governor was not helpful. He did not, and this is Governor Northam, he did not put an emergency clause on the bill like we asked him to, which would have made it take effect immediately. Right. He just basically slow-played the whole issue. His number one issue that session, 2021, was legalizing marijuana with licenses based on equity criteria. That was literally his issue. While the schools are closed and we have a generation of kids, including minority kids, wasting away, that was his issue.
Well, and you see it, you see it, Chap.
Ridiculous.
Currently, we're still battling, just a couple of years of learning loss and struggling to help mitigate that. You can imagine how much worse it would have been if each year it seemed to, exponentially grow. It wasn't just another year. Each year seemed like a year and a half, if not more, of learning loss that these kids were going to try to have to overcome.
Well, the learning loss was bad enough. So to kind of culminate this, the schools kind of fumble forward, but by the time we get to the fall of 2021, the schools are now back open and kids are coming back for in-person learning. And then the governor handed down an executive order saying all children, either in public or private schools, had to wear a mask in school. They had to wear a mask at all times unless they're eating lunch. And I was like, hold on, where's the science behind this? We've had school systems that have been open for a year in Ohio, Florida, Texas, Kansas, you name it, with kids no mask mandate. We have plenty of science showing that the kids there are fine. These kids aren't in danger of anything. There's no show of community spread. What's up with the mask mandate? And I kept asking for the science behind it. And meanwhile, my kids are being forced to wear a mask over their face. And I had a daughter that was autistic. That was a major imposition on her.
Sure.
I had a son who's a junior in high school who's basically had a year and a half of no education, who was telling me that these kids are walking around with masks over their face. The schools had completely degenerated. There were fights in the hallway every day. The teachers had lost control of the class. I'm hearing this from teachers, that one of the side effects of the masking was that the kids basically just lost all control. There was no accountability. And there's a reason why you want to see people's faces when you're interacting with them. And so by the time we came back, and I remember talking to Youngkin after he got elected, I said, we got to get rid of this. And so I basically talked to Siobhan Donovan again. We worked together. She put a bill in to basically keep the schools open, to extend the bill we'd had the year before. And when it got to the floor of the Senate, I put on a floor amendment to effectively get rid of the mask mandate by making it parental option. And you would have thought, when I put that in, it was if I had rolled a grenade, into the teacher's lounge. Oh my God, I was putting people's life at risk, and everyone's going to die, and we're all going to get sick. And the overreaction, it was unbelievable. The hysteria. Of all the things I did, it was lifting the mask mandate that got the most pushback. Every Democrat in the House of Delegates voted against my amendment. And again, if it hadn't have been for Morrissey and Linwood Lewis, I wouldn't have got it out of the Senate either. And these are people that were my friends. We had worked together on issues, but thank God our fragile coalition held together. We passed that. It took effect March 1 because the governor did put an emergency clause on it. And you know what? 3 months later, the issue was over. The kids were back to normal, and everybody then wanted to forget this ever happened.
Well, and
that's the reality.
And I want to jump into this just a moment, Chap, because there's a bigger, I think there's a macro issue here as well. But we've now, Dr. Fauci has testified that he doesn't know where the 6-foot rule came from, just kind of happened. Yep. His words. Francis Collins just testified in February. They finally released the transcript of his testimony back from February, in which he reiterated the same thing. Well, we don't know where it came from. We're not really sure, where it was all based. That was the cornerstone of everything that happened in the Commonwealth: the closing of the schools, the closing of businesses, the rejiggering of our election system to these 45 days. All was based on something that the pundits, the scientists that we were supposedly listening to, now shrug and say, yeah, we don't know where it came from. And I have to fight infuriation over that, and especially looking at what was done to folks like you and Senator Morrissey over the bucking of the system, as it were, even though you were born outright. It's like the fellow who said, where do I go to get my last 2 years of good reputation back, Senator?
Well, you know what? It's funny because all of us in public life want a chance to be relevant. And I look at it this way. I had a very good career in state politics. I had what was a safe seat. I would have been chair of the courts committee and been on a senior member of finance and all that, and that all went down the drain. But it was worth it because I had a chance to be relevant. I had a chance to do something that was the right thing that people now they recognize. And you know what? At the end of the day, I got to be able to look myself in the mirror and say, did I stand up? And I did. And it's not look, there's plenty of issues, and my family's an old Virginia family.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of times we've been wrong, plenty of times. And it's not that I'm better than my ancestors. I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sometimes, you know, people make mistakes, and I'm not looking to sort of settle scores with anybody.
No.
I was disappointed with a couple people, but I have a lot of friends in the Democratic caucus. They're still my friends. And I have a lot of friends in the Republican caucus.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, it's just a question of we have to learn from this, and we have to acknowledge it. And, you know, people are always apologizing for this, that, and the other thing. Well, when are people going to apologize to a generation of kids that had 2 years of their lives where they're treated like criminals for no reason? When's that apology coming?
Right, and never mind the education that they were struggling and still struggling to get back.
First impressions are everything, and your driveway is the first impression of your home. For your business, an attractive and spacious parking lot by Pyramid Paving will make you stand out from the crowd. Rely on the expertise of Pyramid Paving. Our team rejuvenates and enhances the appearance of your property, ensuring it stays fresh, contemporary, and enjoyable. Experience the artistry of our skilled craftsmen and elevate the functionality of your property. Contact Pyramid Paving today.
Memorial Day is a time to celebrate those who gave it all so we can have it all here in the United States. And we celebrate in Earlysville on Monday morning as we broadcast live on the new WTON from the Earlysville preparations for their Memorial Day celebration, which will happen shortly before 9 o'clock. And join us for that. We'll have first free coffee for those, and that's the name of the coffee shop, not that you first come, first serve, won't get free. We'll also have some goodies for you to win and some bumper stickers as well as we broadcast live from Earlysville for Memorial Day on the new WTON radio.
Your Thursday forecast calling for increasing clouds throughout the day with scattered showers and storms likely in the afternoon. Daytime highs in the mid-80s. Thursday night, scattered showers and storms before daylight. Otherwise, lows in the lower 60s. Friday through Sunday, we're looking for a chance of scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms each day. Otherwise, partly to mostly sunny with daytime highs in the mid-80s. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now, back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
Joe Thomas in the morning, visiting with former Virginia Senator Chap Peterson. Chap Peterson, former Virginia Senator, now author of I believe still a barrister, but author of the book Rebel, chronicling this couple of years in 1920, 21, in which he became the standard bearer of standing up against even his own party. And your era, and it's a reminder, this wasn't all that long ago where people could stand up and say, hold it, my community is not seeing this, or I'm not seeing this. The individuality seems to have been lost in our public square, Chap. I want to pivot a little bit specifically and talk about the power of both political parties. I think Tom Garrett, who I believe you served with in the Virginia Senate, just spoke eloquently at their state Senate committee meeting, gave a speech on YouTube, you can see it, in which he rebuked this whole idea of a 1 or 0. It's all or nothing. Either you're with me or you're against me kind of way of representing our communities. Is your story indicative of the power of these political parties going too far?
Yes. The answer is yes. I look at when I first got elected in 2001, there was a lot of crossover in the Commonwealth, and you had a lot of communities where you'd have Democrats and Republicans living together, and there was a general sort of consensus that you needed to have two parties, you needed to have opposition, you needed to have some type of sort of adversarial system where you get the give and take that you need to get good public policy, or at least good debate. And that has really gone away. I mean, Fairfax County, which I represent, which oddly enough, when I ran, it was a Republican majority, but that was 25 years ago, has now become a one-party state. which is not good. Our school systems have been sliding downward for years. It's become very business unfriendly, and it's a lot of it's because one party has too much power. And by the way, it's not limited to Democrats. I had a conversation. I'm not going to out this person who's a very good friend, but it was a prominent Republican who was bemoaning the fact that there are no more elected Democrats in Roanoke County. Which, that again, you lack the balance that you're supposed to have, and you don't get the give and take you need. And I do believe that, look, political parties are necessary to kind of organize people and provide some structure, but within the parties, you need to have the ability to have intellectual flexibility. You need to allow people to debate. You can't just have everything be about abortion and gun control. I mean, it just gets tiresome. That's not what people are living out in the real world.
True.
And that's my thought, but I think a lot of people think that way.
Is there something substantive that can be done within the structure, the parliamentary procedure of how the General Assembly is constructed or operates that will allow sort of a check your party at the door mentality? I know that caucuses, and then you're assigned to committees, and some of these committees are crazily overbalanced one way or another when the body at large is not. But is there something that could be done substantively, legislatively, that could make it easier for somebody to hang up their party affiliation when they go into the chamber and actually, question authority, even if it's, quote, their governor, which I find to be a disingenuous phrase, but that seems to be how it's going.
Yeah, I think you need a couple people, and I'm going to sort of say, like myself, like Siobhan, like more people that are sort of independent, and people that are willing to say, we need to rewrite the rules so it's more balanced. Believe it or not, back in the 90s, and this is when I was an intern in the General Assembly, there was a Democrat named Virgil Goode who very famously said, even though the Democrats had a slim majority, he said, I'm not going to vote for a party plan that basically overloads all the committees. We need to have proportionate representation. And for a while, they actually had power sharing in the Senate, where a bill could not pass unless it had some degree of bipartisan agreement. And again, you need someone who's going to kind of stand up and be that maverick, so to speak.
Yeah.
But it also depends on the districts being closer to kind of 50-50. My problem was I could have gotten reelected in a district that was, say, a 50-50 district. I couldn't get reelected in a district that was 70-30. And when after redistricting, I ended up in a 70-30. The other thing kind of unique to me was I had a very strong relationship with the Korean American community. My wife was Korean American, and so after redistricting, I lost most of that, which was somewhat devastating. But anyways, that's sort of inside politics. The bottom line is you need people to stand up. You need people that are independent. You need people that are going to say, you know what, I may not be coming back, but while I'm here, I'm going to do what I think is right.
Now, I've known Virgil for, most of the time I've lived in Virginia. He was still the 5th District Congressman when I moved here. But I'm pleased to know that he fought for power sharing, because I think one of the things I've watched over the last 2 General Assembly sessions are these committees that are, 8-3, 9-3, to the majority party. And I'm saying majority party because I wouldn't want Republicans to wield, a 9-3 majority in a House where they have a 1-seat majority.
I've been on both sides of that equation. Believe me, I was in the minority for many, many years. So,
I mean, and then at least the bills that get to the floor have been through some process that, that both sides, as you said, have to have a say on. I think that's a simple thing. Senator Peake has agreed with me on that as well, because I really feel like, we're becoming just, a blood sport. Whoever gets the majority is going to get to rule. And I don't think that's what, the United States, never mind Virginia, was based on, who gets to be king for 2 or 4 years. Is it, Chap?
Right. No, it's not. And like I said, it's ironic to me that at a time where we've never been more 50-50 as a population, that the people that are in control seem to think that there's an imprimatur for them to just go out and do everything sort of completely as if they have 100-0 majority, as opposed to saying, hey, we have a very narrow majority. Let's see if we can kind of pass legislation that's going to get, some votes on the other side, as opposed to just slamming through as many 51-49 votes as we can.
And I don't mean to make it sound like, late night radio and there's a conspiracy theory, but are there forces at work behind the scenes that give power to the party level, members, Republican or Democrat, that if they have the majority, do all these things because it benefits, whether it's, this business, that business? Certainly, I think there would be a hue and cry in the media if we found that, say, Dominion was benefiting from, having a friendly General Assembly. But it just seems like that there has to be something more, as your story tells, of something more going on. These decisions are being made for other reasons other than what they're purporting for. Am I seeing too much in the tea leaves, Chap?
No, I think you're exactly accurate. One of the problems, and I have a chapter in my book about the whole Dominion situation, is that we had unlimited donations in Virginia, and that does allow certain actors, whether they be high net worth individuals or whether they be Fortune 50 companies, it gives them too much power. It gives them too much say. And I think those, if I had not run for re-election in 2019 and retired after 3 terms, I would have been known for fighting Dominion and all that, and I sort of would have been this great, progressive superhero. But of course, I stuck around another term and spoiled it all.
Ruined that.
But the lesson to me was the same, that you had a few people with too much power. And a lot of that was because of our campaign finance laws or lack thereof. And, that's a whole other radio show we could spend on that.
Oh, believe me, I know. But yeah, I think because I feel like there are dear friends of mine, the former vice chair of I guess she's still the vice chair of the Charlottesville Democratic Party, was a dear friend and a neighbor and one of the most heroic individuals in terms of just the way she conducted her life. And yet every time I would mention it on the radio program, she'd come up to me the next day and say, "You nearly lost me my membership card," because I said something nice about her on the radio. I said, "Well, my gosh, and I think that's the part."
Yeah, people get carried away, and like I said, if you have a friendship with the wrong person, that can get weaponized against you. But, like I said, I don't think, and, I obviously I lost my seat, so it's, I'm probably a warning to people. If you deviate from the party line, you'll lose your seat. But
I hope not.
At the end of I think my circumstances were a little bit special, that I was in a redistricting and I had gone from what had been a 50-50 seat to a very Democratic seat. But at the end of the day, I wrote the book not only to kind of to record what happened, but also just to say, hey, I'm still here, man.
Yeah.
And I do think that we did the right thing. I'm not embarrassed about it. I'm proud of what we did. Siobhan and Joe, I'm proud of the team we put together. And, to quote Winston Churchill, history will be kind to me because I intend to write it.
That's very well said. And Chap, and for those who maybe are new to Virginia, Chap's story is not simply this COVID battle either. I mean, you're always a champion, for businesses and making sure that the business community was not under an onerous yoke of state regulations. We're constantly working to fight that as well. So, your rebel status was well earned before COVID came along, because I remember when you started to stand up against it, it made perfect sense to me that here was a guy that we should be listening to, and I'm glad they did at the time. I'm sorry for what happened to you. Books are on sale through Prime, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and all those folks.
Yeah, I just go to Rebel. You can look up Rebel by Chap Peterson, or my website, which is thevirginiaattorney.com. Spell it out, thevirginiaattorney.com. And if you go there, there's a link so you can buy it through the website. Otherwise, we're on Amazon or Prime. Just Rebel by Chap Peterson, and spell it Petersen. It's the Scandinavian spelling. But I'd love to have you all buy it and give it to a friend. But like I said, really appreciate the time today. Really appreciate it.
Not at all, Chap. You have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. Thank you for spending some time with us and being an inspiration, because I hope there are more people like you out there who are going to go up and ask the questions, not just in your industry, but as mine as well, and bring those bow ties back, because...
I will. We'll be back.
First impressions are everything, and your driveway is the first impression of your home. For your business, an attractive and spacious parking lot by Pyramid Paving will make you stand out from the crowd. Rely on the expertise of Pyramid Paving. Our team rejuvenates and enhances the appearance of your property, ensuring it stays fresh, contemporary, and enjoyable. Experience the artistry of our skilled craftsmen and elevate the functionality of your property. Contact Pyramid Paving today.
Memorial Day is a time to celebrate those who gave it all so we can have it all here in the United States. And we celebrate in Earlysville on Monday morning as we broadcast live on the new WTON from the Earlysville preparations for their Memorial Day celebration, which will happen shortly before 9 o'clock. And join us for that. We'll have first free coffee for those, and that's the name of the coffee shop, not that you first come, first serve, won't get free. We'll also have some goodies for you to win and some bumper stickers as well as we broadcast live from Earlysville for Memorial Day on the new WTON radio.
Your Thursday forecast calling for increasing clouds throughout the day with scattered showers and storms likely in the afternoon. Daytime highs in the mid-80s. Thursday night, scattered showers and storms before daylight. Otherwise, lows in the lower 60s. Friday through Sunday, we're looking for a chance of scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms each day. Otherwise, partly to mostly sunny with daytime highs in the mid-80s. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now, back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
It threw me off, honest to goodness. I was just like, what do you mean you're on? Don't flash red lights at me. At least in this studio, unlike the radio one, the red light is in here with me, so I know when it's on. We need one on the microphone sometimes, but I appreciate the folks who point out that Gary in Berlin, New Hampshire, on the YouTube feed says, yep, that's how it is when you're leaving Shaky Town. Referring to our discussion of Convoy, because we have, thanks to our friends at American Gramophone Records, special Americana CDs done by Mannheim Steamroller, incredible Battle Hymn of the Republic, things like that. But it carries a unique and specially done re-recording of Convoy, which is the song that made Mannheim Steamroller who they are. It was done. You say, well, Joe, it doesn't say Mannheim Steamroller on the, when they play it on the country western stations, they call it C.W. McCall. Yeah, and if you look at Billboard, it's C.W. McCall. C.W. McCall was a character that they created for a truck dealership. Chip Davis and his team were actually commercial jingle writers and commercial production people, and they did that. But we've got a bunch of their Americana CDs to give away at all these events that we're going to over the Memorial Day weekend. So I hope you can join us, whether it be at the Vets for Vets car show, live broadcast there in Stanton on Saturday morning. It's the coming out party. He's still here. You can come and see. I still look the same if you haven't been watching here on YouTube or Rumble. But then again, who am I talking to if you haven't? Never mind. Then again, in Earlysville for the Memorial Day ceremonies, their first free coffee bar is going to bring down go-go juice for us. Steve Harvey there. A couple of things going on. Obviously, we've followed up, if you're joining us in progress, some brouhaha over our coverage of the hung cow story and the Stanton News Leader. This one from Tina that says, Joe, you're just trying to kiss up to the Stanton News Leader. No, honestly not. As Chris Graham said at the Augusta Free Press when he sat down with me to talk about the new radio station, you sure you want to talk to me? Yeah, I do. because I think Chris does great work at the Augusta Free Press, Jeff and Patrick and all the folks at the Stanton News Leader. I mean, there's not enough of us to ignore each other, as Spock said to Spock in Star Trek, the second motion picture. So the second motion picture called Star Trek. So we'll go back into that. This email comes in from Tim, who says, Corey Stewart. Now, there's a name I haven't heard in a while. It was a derogatory reference to the other folks besides Hung Cao in the Senate race being, quote, backbenchers, because President Trump noted Hung Cao's presence at CPAC. Do I really need to tell you how much that cost, the Cow campaign? How much perhaps he had to pull from this political action committee? We don't know, because there's little documentation. It certainly didn't go to any of the 2023 candidates, but that cost $40,000. Not to President Trump either. Not to President Trump either. That did not go to his legal defense fund or anything like that. Charlottesville schools, this is going to be, and this is one they're probably going to try to do over the summer because the activists won't be there. Albemarle County has already voted to bring a hybrid sort of SRO, school resource officer, back into the schools, Albemarle High School especially. The City of Charlottesville School Board is going to vote when everyone's away on vacation, so they don't get the jumping up and down on the furniture stuff. Now, understand, several of our boards, Albemarle School Board, Albemarle Board of Supervisors, have petitioned the General Assembly for permission to only hold their meetings on Zoom. Now, we use Zoom here frequently. You just watched me interview Chap Peterson over, well, it was Zoom, and then we had to do phone, but whatever. But soon, Scott Shepard. I'm not slagging Zoom as a function, but for public meetings, it actually says in the Virginia Constitution you can't do it. Even the Attorney General Mark Herring issued an opinion saying that for public meetings of general purpose governance, Zoom was inappropriate for those public meetings. But so sometime while everyone's away, the Charlottesville School Board probably will vote to bring back some form of SROs there. And but I want to jump to this. We're going to talk about property rights in Greene County, not Greene County, in Nelson and Augusta counties in a little while, as it relates to the other ugly derelict hotel in the area, the one that used to be called the Inn at Afton, not the Pockmark Hotel on the downtown mall in Charlottesville. But let's talk about, since we're on the subject of the Senate race, Tim Kaine likes to tell you that he's got the money and he's bringing it to Virginia. Vote for me because I am Daddy Warbucks, or at least daddy someone else's bucks, and more billions of dollars coming to green programs in Virginia. Case in point, this.
Reduce its greenhouse gas emissions by getting nonprofits in the community involved. It's giving out more than $100,000 with its climate action grants. The Board of Supervisors hopes to get to zero emissions by 2050.
We are thinking about these projects in terms of a range between 5,000 and 25,000. So there's a number of different ways that could break out across 100,000. We are looking for the most, creative and exciting project ideas.
Or this.
Selected, LEAP offers discounted prices and vetted installers. LEAP says a good candidate includes a home with a south-facing roof and minimum shade.
So, of course, going solar not only will save you money, it saves you on electric bills and kind of helps to prevent against future electric bill rate increases. It's also helping the environment, which is a part of our partnership with the city and the county.
Solarize Virginia is an annual program. This year it'll be open for applications through June 30th.
Look at all those made in China solar panels there, and you have to know, we already
saw greenhouse gas emissions by getting nonprofits in the community involved.
about me. So those two stories in conjunction with each other. Understand the word you kept hearing that wasn't spoken were subsidies, and I appreciate Katie, the zealous spokesperson for LEAP. They're just selling it. You got to appreciate. I mean, it's like Baghdad Bob. We know they're not green, because we don't know what happens to them when you'd have to dispose of them after 25 years. The state of California, who Virginia, last time I checked, still has a law that says we're tying all of our climate policy to them. The state of California refers to photovoltaic solar panels as hazardous waste, because of all the chemicals and the doodah-day that's mined by slave labor in China and sub-Saharan Africa to make them. There's no way to where are we disposing of them? What happens to all that stuff when it starts leaking into the groundwater? Questions unasked. Maybe they'll be dismissed like Hung Cow dismissed those questions as, I'm not answering the questions of some podunk radio show in Central Virginia. Because, again, that's the elitist view, is we're up here at the top. But, again, as our friend Chris Horner says, borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, you're always going to have Paul's undying support.
First impressions are everything, and your driveway is the first impression of your home. For your business, an attractive and spacious parking lot by Pyramid Paving will make you stand out from the crowd. Rely on the expertise of Pyramid Paving. Our team rejuvenates and enhances the appearance of your property, ensuring it stays fresh, contemporary, and enjoyable. Experience the artistry of our skilled craftsmen and elevate the functionality of your property. Contact Pyramid Paving today.
Hi, this is Joe Thomas. Join us Saturday morning at Gypsy Hill Park for Vets for Vets to raise money for the VFW in Stanton. Gypsy Hill Park, 10 a.m. It's not just Corvettes. Whatever your ride is, whether it's Mopar or a Mustang or even a hot hatchback, something that you drift with, come on down and show it off at Gypsy Hill Park. It's a $10 admission fee for your car. Dash plaques for the first 200 cars that join in on the celebration. There'll be music, food, and a live broadcast from me, Joe Thomas, in the morning. Gypsy Hill Park to kick off the Memorial Day weekend with Vets for Vets to raise money for the VFW in Central Virginia. Join us there at Gypsy Hill Park starting at 10 with Joe Thomas in the morning.
Your Thursday forecast calling for increasing clouds throughout the day with scattered showers and storms likely in the afternoon. Daytime highs in the mid-80s. Thursday night, scattered showers and storms before daylight. Otherwise, lows in the lower 60s. Friday through Sunday, we're looking for a chance of scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms each day. Otherwise, partly to mostly sunny with daytime highs in the mid-80s. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now, back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
Joe Thomas in the morning, and joining us now from the sports desk of the Joe Thomas in the Morning program. Somebody asked me, is Matt going to continue doing sports for you after the station launches on Saturday? I said, hell yes. You think I want to pour? I have enough trouble pouring through all the regular news of the day. Do you think I have extra time to go watch, the U.S. Open and stuff like that? And
I got nothing else. I got nothing else to do. Got no kitchen, no job, no friends, no shoes, as Pete Gillen would say.
Well, you sound like a George Thorogood song there.
Yeah, it's like, exactly.
But he is our notebook this morning. And what's going on this morning, Brother Mac?
And it's nice that they're still asking. All right, fourth seed. I was at school yesterday watching the Virginia-Georgia Tech game. I was watching it online because I had a Hall of Fame week.
Hang on to that a second here. You know, I'm old enough to remember when kids would bring, and this was famous in New
the
York.
White transistor radio.
You know, and they'd sit there.
The
1969 Mets. All the kids were listening to the radio, and
absolutely, we've come a little ways, Joe.
Still happening.
I was at my desk watching a stream of the game. The Cavs ruled Georgia Tech yesterday, in case you missed it, 13-0. Harrison Didowick homered in his 5th straight game. He tied the UVA single season record for home runs with 23, right? Casey Saki drilled a 2-run shot then in the 4th. Henry Godbout, his 7th of the year. So the Who's had a 5-0 lead in the 3rd. For Henry, that's 4 in the last 10 games. Remember we've been talking about this offense? UVA has hit 16 home runs in the last 4 games. Now,
holy cow.
Sounds from shot. So I had to bring to the table, Joe's breakfast table, I had to bring to the table this morning the sounds from Charlotte. 40 people on hand. There's nobody at 11 o'clock game in Charlotte, right? For the ACC baseball tournament. Listen to these bat cracks. Listen to the launch of these guys. And then Casey Saki talking about the culture of UVA baseball. It's all put together in one nice little package. Listen.
It's this one deep to right field, all the way back and gone. Didowick, a 2-run shot. Cavaliers on top. That one is tore into. Deep to left center field. The park won't hold it.
We have a culture here. It's very meaningful. And when you practice how you play every day and you have such a high intensity, it just translates over to the field naturally.
Yeah,
of course.
Natural for us.
Of course, yeah.
Had enough. The shutout Wednesday marked the first in ACC tournament play in 9 years. So Florida State tomorrow morning in Pool D. Wake takes care of Pitt 8-1. North Carolina State scored many and often. 19-9 the win over Virginia Tech. Clemson and Miami this morning now at 11. Carolina and Pitt play at 3, and then NC State and Duke tonight at 7 o'clock. All right, so the Mavericks take game 1 of the NBA Western Conference Finals. 108-105 the win over the Timberwolves. Kyrie Irving had 24 of his 30 in the first half, and then Luka Doncic booked 15 of his 33 in the 4th period.
Holy, Kyrie is still playing? Kyrie Irving is still playing? Is he 50?
Yeah, and then Doncic. All right, here we go. Doncic and Irving become the first duo in NBA history to each score 30 in a series opener twice during the same playoff run while eating snow cones outside the parking lot. It's the first time in 6 attempts under Coach Jason Kidd that the Mavs have won game 1. All right, baseball, the Orioles dropped a couple yesterday. They lose the suspended game 3-1, then the other game 3-1. That is the first series sweep against the O's in 106 matchups.
Wow, that's a couple of seasons there. That's well said. Yeah.
Nats lose to the Twins again, 3-2. Nats return home to play Seattle today. Birds are in Chicago tonight, play the Sox. The O's are now 3 back in the East. Why? Well, the Yankees got 2 dingers from Juan Soto, a first-inning blast from Aaron Judge, 7-3, the win over the Mariners. Game 4 of that series is today. If that's not the headline, the Phillies are 6 games up in the NL East. They beat the Rangers 11-4 yesterday, like a drum. That's 8 of the last 9, 17 of the last 20, 36-14, the best 50-game start in 23 years, and the best start in franchise history. So, ta-da, there you go, the Phillies. If you like Bryce
they
Harper,
pitch, they hit. They're like UVA baseball in that.
Yeah, I'm going to have to start signing off, Joe, like doing the signal. All right. Interesting story yesterday that I heard because I go through all kinds of websites and I find out, what's happening in talk radio all over the country and who's saying what, right? Well, Florida State Athletic Director dropped a small bomb. Michael Alford made a little noise on Tuesday. He told a national talk show, the one with Danny Canal, it's on satellite. Anyway, he goes, we knew before the selection show that we're being snubbed by the CFP committee.
What?
We knew. Yeah, Alfred, you'll hear this in a second. So, because Alfred was walking they go 13-0. They win the ACC championship game in December. They're walking to the bus. And Alfred hears a couple of players going, we got no chance. We're in the toilet bowl. We will not make the Final Four. And Alfred goes, you guys are crazy. He goes, they're not going to deny us. It's never happened, right? So then he goes to the selection show the next day, and he notices that Marty Smith, the big time reporter, is in Tuscaloosa, and that they get assigned Harry Lyles Jr. And there was so Alfred, here's the soundbite, said there was no way we were in the CFP Final Four.
And for a player to say that to me, and I just blew it off. I said, no way, we're in, told them both. It's never happened before. We're 13-0 and a Power 5 conference champion. We're going. But really the next day when we went to the selection show, and when I get there and look up and see who's covering us and see that Marty Smith is in Tuscaloosa, that hit me. We're not in.
We're not going. So anyway, Alfred also, as I said, overheard the players saying, look, where should we go? Where should we transfer to? Wonder if we can get into Alabama.
Yeah, we saw how they handled the bowl game.
Yeah, wow. right after everything was going on. So anyway, that's just I just bring that to the table. Tomorrow, of course, we'll be hyping UVA lacrosse. They're in Philly. That's it's a hotbed area. UVA alums are going to have a big party up there. I texted, I think I said this earlier this week. I texted Steph Schellenberger, who's a real estate agent in Charlottesville. She and Scotty just having a great time. This is their last little.
And who drafted him? My first.
It was. It was, and I was thinking about the other day. I don't remember, and I should remember. He did get drafted.
It's interesting how the draft happens before the championship too. I mean, it's like these kids already know they're going to be playing professionally.
Yeah. Well, you're talking. I can find it real quick.
Well, but it's because my first lacrosse, and having grown up in New York, and this is how interesting lacrosse is to me. Maryland is a hotbed of lacrosse. Delaware, no one plays it. It's that specific. Queens, I could walk to Nassau County and nobody in Queens played lacrosse. Nassau County, everyone played lacrosse. It was just one of those sports that, like, you'd hit the border, and unlike the Southern American border, just lacrosse was not coming across into some areas, and it was just so I had never experienced it. I got to work, one of the radio stations I worked at was a promotional partner of the New York Saints, which was one of the box lacrosse. It was the major. We called it the Mill. It was the major indoor lacrosse league, and it was wild. This is when the Gate brothers were playing for Syracuse.
Listen to you.
And I watched these two guys, and I coined
what are you doing following politics? Come to our side of the fence. I mean, come on. Get rid of all that voting red state, blue state crap. You need to come over to our side of the fence and just talk about CFPs and snubs and portals.
Oh my gosh. You've got a classroom full of kids who are better than me at this, but these Gate brothers were incredible. It was like if Michael Jordan had a twin brother and they played together on the Bulls. It was crazy. And I watched Schellenberger and some of these guys on UVA's lacrosse team. I'm just like, my gosh, the movement. When we were doing box lacrosse and indoor lacrosse, and if you've never come across it, it's lacrosse played on a hockey rink with grass, obviously. So you compress all this action into and you can check people into the corner and everything. I always said, wow, regular lacrosse field, full-size lacrosse was so much slower. Not anymore. I mean, it's as frantic and frantic as the indoor game was.
Just like, almost like every sport now, football. Shell is going to the New York Atlas. He was the second overall pick, and then Cole Kastner is going to the California Redwoods. At least their names are like really cool. He was the 32nd pick. So anyway, I knew it was New York, and I couldn't remember their names, so I didn't want to say. But
it was a weird time because there was some prickly feelings.
Because when I first got the famous story, and I've told it a million times, but the famous story of going to Doug Terring teaching me everything in the spring of '81. We're getting ready to do lacrosse on radio. One of the first stations really to do it, thanks to Colin Ross and Larry Richardson, who said, "Oh yeah, we got to do this." But I went to a picnic that spring, and we had just started. And of course, we didn't have an Iowa, and I picked up a lacrosse stick and played a little catch, and I could handle it a little bit. Okay. But I said at that time how addictive it was to catch it and just catch it and stay. I know I sound like a real novice, but to catch it and to throw it with a stick, I went, oh man, I can see why people play this game.
Oh, well, this prop up above my head. So I'm years and years squatting down behind, fastballs and swinging bats. I when I tried to use a cross, proper word. I was completely lost. I was so used to having my catching thing in my hand. I couldn't delegate.
Yeah,
So
it was fabulous. Again, I've told the story a million times, but showing up in Charlottesville, I was only there about a couple days, and I saw a kid walking a dog with a lacrosse stick, and I went, "What a clean town this is! This must be really great." He's got right there. He's got, he can take care of his dog if it's on the side.
That's the mic drop right there.
And then when I saw the goalie. A kid walking with a goalie stick, no dog. I said, he must have a huge dog.
All right. And that's it. No more.
That was my introduction.
No more calls, please. We have a winner.
Yeah, no more calls. But that was my introduction in lacrosse when I first got to Charlottesville in 1980. True story.
Starge's team, not Starge's. That was the UVA team is just incredible.
Yeah,
and
man, couple of great runs and the Philly, it was in Philly, the 17-0 run, and I'm pretty sure that was it could have been Baltimore, but I think it was Philly where we played, and they went undefeated. But that was the morning I met Bill Belichick, because he was on a treadmill in the hotel workout room, and I was right next to him. And of course, Al Groh was football coach at the time, and I waited. I was doing little weights and lifting little things, going, "Would Bill Belichick please finish?" And then I went up to him and said, "Coach, don't want to take any of your time. I know you love lacrosse, but I'm here and I'm working with Al Groh. I just wanted to say hello." Really, Belichick could not have been nicer. Walked over to the towel girl and got a piece of paper and signed with his phone number. He goes, "You ever need me, you call me."
Really? You have that phone number? Wow. Matt McDonald is now the most valuable sports guy in America right now. Mike Francesa turned that connection to Bill Belichick into a multi-million-dollar broadcasting career.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Anyway, I got to run, Matt. Good stuff, my friend.
I know you do. Good Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll hype the lacrosse weekend. Should be fun. We'll dive in. So should be fun tomorrow. I will see you on Friday.
First impressions are everything, and your driveway is the first impression of your home. For your business, an attractive and spacious parking lot by Pyramid Paving will make you stand out from the crowd. Rely on the expertise of Pyramid Paving. Our team rejuvenates and enhances the appearance of your property, ensuring it stays fresh, contemporary, and enjoyable. Experience the artistry of our skilled craftsmen and elevate the functionality of your property. Contact Pyramid Paving today.
Memorial Day is a time to celebrate those who gave it all so we can have it all here in the United States. And we celebrate in Earlysville on Monday morning as we broadcast live on the new WTON from the Earlysville preparations for their Memorial Day celebration, which will happen shortly before 9 o'clock. And join us for that. We'll have first free coffee for those, and that's the name of the coffee shop, not that you first come, first serve, won't get free. We'll also have some goodies for you to win and some bumper stickers as well as we broadcast live from Earlysville for Memorial Day on the new WTON radio.
Your Thursday forecast calling for increasing clouds throughout the day with scattered showers and storms likely in the afternoon. Daytime highs in the mid-80s. Thursday night, scattered showers and storms before daylight, otherwise lows in the lower 60s. Friday through Sunday, we're looking for a chance of scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms each day, otherwise partly to mostly sunny with daytime highs in the mid-80s. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
Joe Thomas in the morning. Thank you for joining in, being part of the program, and taking us along with you wherever you go, or downloading it like William Shatner. I live it more in reruns than I do in first run, although plenty of you, and really it's a gift to think about, how many people are tuning into a television program hosted by a radio guy in these mornings, but I appreciate it. And joining us now, our friend from the Free Enterprise Project. He's their chief counsel and director. He is Scott Shepard. It is, as they refer to it, shareholder season going on there, where they go and use their positions in these shareholder meetings to push a conservative agenda. And Scott, it's good to hear from you again. How are you doing, sir?
I'm terrific, Joe. How have you been?
Oh, we've been busy about to launch a radio station, so I've got my own hands full. You'll wind up being shareholders. My wife will sell you half of her shares of Thomas Media LLC, and next thing I know, you'll be there asking me, so what was that the stuff you said about hung cow there? And it's buttonholing
I
me.
think you can keep from being too woke, right? So I won't have to come after you too hard.
Woke, never mind. I'm worried about being awake. I went to see the Dixie Dregs last night in Washington, D.C., along with the Steve Morse Band, and we haven't seen them in 20 years, and I think we returned home at 2:30, and I got up at 3:45. Now, to be fair, my wife did all the driving, so a lot of that 11 p.m. till 2:45, I was sleeping in the passenger seat of a car, but awake is much more of a challenge to me than woke is. But woke is what you chase on these in these shareholder meetings, and you've had some big ones the last week or so. Scott, catch us up.
Yeah, we've been talking to energy companies this year about their net zero commitments and the absolute lack of foundation or basis or fiduciary duty for doing that. What it boils down to is China and India and the rest of the non-West are growing their carbon output at massive rates. What the West does just doesn't matter anymore. And so they're spending all of this money to make their companies less viable for no purpose whatever, no climate purpose whatever.
But that's the point we've been making about this climate stuff forever, is that it makes no difference. And as a matter of fact, I think there's a reasonable case to be made that it's less green. We just ran down all these billions of dollars that Senators Kaine and Warner announced are coming into the Commonwealth of Virginia to subsidize more solar panels made in China, mined by slave labor in sub-Saharan Africa. But then, when you ask somebody, I mean, this is like COVID. Scott, when I ask somebody, so where do we and how do we dispose of these solar panels when you stop working in 20 years? I get this, you can't. It's like I yelled ivermectin in a crowded emergency room, Scott. It's all of a sudden, you're just part of the Koch brothers apparatchiks if you ask that question. But I think the fact that they won't answer it is important.
Well, I think that's right, but it's not just the Koch brothers anymore. Now the Cuomo brothers have taken ivermectin.
Right.
And it's not going to be too long before the clowns at BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard quietly have to admit that they've wasted an enormous amount of money in this green boondoggle. One of the things I said to, last week we had the meeting at BlackRock, and one of the things I said to Larry Fink is, you're constantly violating your fiduciary duties. When you force behavior on companies, did you force any move into EVs on the auto companies? Because if you did, on the terrible basis of bad evidence that you have, aren't you going to be personally liable for all that stupidity and all those billions and billions of losses? Now, I don't think he'll ever have to pay it, but it does concentrate the mind a bit.
Well, but isn't that the whole point of ESG and the Securities and Exchange Commission actually trying to memorialize environmental social governance as a thing, so that you now have a get out of jail free card? If you lose everybody's money, it's like, well, at least we gave it to good things, quote unquote. I guess whatever gets determined to be a good thing, Scott. That's the mind numbing part of this that you've chronicled so well at the Free Enterprise Project.
Well, and what we've seen for years is that these companies have pretended to do well by doing good, but instead they're just doing left. And it won't surprise you or your listeners to hear that left-wing solutions are not money-earning or problem-solving solutions. The left is always wrong. Now, the right's wrong quite a bit too, but the left is always wrong about everything.
Well, and your point is if we're looking for authority figures to tell us what to do, generally they're wrong, often because they've been co-opted by somebody who wants their particular thing to be subsidized, if not just authorized with a stamp from USDA or whatever it may be, and that's something, that's a corruption that goes beyond political parties.
Well, I think that's right. I think the primary problem is that the love of money is supposed to be the root of all evil. That's either from Chaucer or the Bible or something. But I would like to amend that. I'd like to say that the love of controlling other adults is the root of all evil. So anybody who wants to tell other people what to do, they're wrong to begin with because they start from an evil place.
Right. So, Scott, what and this always fascinates me. So you're talking to Larry Fink and you're buttonholing him on this. I mean, do they just blow it off saying, "Oh, here's Scott again"? He's at the because my listeners, my viewers here now in Rumble and YouTube land, they want to know, I mean, is this having an effect? Because, and I remind them that as von Steuben said to Washington, this is your country. You don't have to win. You just have to make sure you never lose, and they will eventually stop. I mean, is that the battle we're facing? Is just we have to continue like Nathaniel Green to keep nipping at heels, winning little victories, pushing back, dissenting opinions in the Supreme Court, that kind of thing, until finally enough people get damaged under these policies that they, as you said earlier, awake rather than stay woke.
Well, Joe, you've won my heart. I mean, making obscure Revolutionary War references, that is absolutely the way. I'm a scion of Mr. Jefferson's University, and I eat that stuff up. But I'll tell you the problem we have in the United States, because we are the last best hope. We are, we have to win every single time, because if we fail once, then as Churchill said in a different context, but not in a terribly different idiom, a new dark age made more perverse and more protracted by the light of a perverted science. I don't have that exactly right, but the United States, liberty in the United States has to win every time, or it'll be extinguished across the globe.
I was just asked by one of my listeners, did I said buttonholing. It was buttonholing. I just have to be careful here how I speak. Apparently I'm talking too fast, or there was a glitch in the audio feed, Scott. So all seriousness, and again, this is forcing Peter to give you their money. This is confiscation from Peter to pay Paul. This is, as our friend Chris Horner refers to it, the world's second oldest profession, and very much like the first, somebody winds up with just a little note on the dresser at the end of the night. This idea that these companies, and we just ran down a whole bunch of them, they're talking about their subsidies and these great subsidies. These are coming from tax dollars that are taken by the federal government that aren't going to education or transportation or any of the things that we can have a debate within, what is the role of government into, and it's just going into the pockets of companies, and then we're telling the consumer, oh, but we're making it less expensive. No, you're not. You're actually just not letting us notice how expensive it's gotten.
Well, that's exactly right. And in fact, the second oldest profession, I think the first oldest profession is much cleaner and more virtuous, because at least you're paying your own money for a service that you get.
Right.
Here, it's them stealing from us to pay a third party, so the third party votes for them, so they have more power to take more stuff from us. It's about as evil as it gets.
So talk about how we can, help you out. Obviously, contributions we talk about. It's political season, so everyone's got a contribution story on their roster. But sharing these stories, sharing these revelations, sharing the videos sometimes that you shoot, these ways that people can stay active with what you do and Free Enterprise Project, part of the National Center for Public Policy Research, but. Is that a way that we all can stay active in this movement, and then let us know what's coming up?
Absolutely. It's freeenterpriseproject.org. I usually have a weekly column at Real Clear Markets. I haven't had time for that in recent months, but I'm going to get back to it soon. And one of the things that your listeners can do, just in the last week, we heard that Disney, which the only thing it had left going for it was its parks. And now the parks aren't making money either because we've had enough. The normal Americans said, nope, we're not going to Disney parks anymore either. And so Disney is collapsing. Niger's in terrible trouble. Just making those decisions and not buying woke and letting the woke go broke, that's a big deal.
And certainly that also gives you the opportunity. And I've said this before, and actually with the launch of the radio station, we get talking about small business versus, national business. And I was listening to a rock station, and I mentioned that I was at the Dixie Dregs concert. And I remember back in the day, 20 years ago, when they were still around, Steve Morse, and there was always a local rock station that would be promoting their show and giving away, even if they weren't playing a lot of their records. But there was now everything is so centralized, the radio stations, the radio. So the mom and pop operations are struggling badly to get along, and everyone's chasing this opportunity to plug into something nationwide. And I think it's important to keep that focus on if you don't spend it on woke, maybe you're not going to Disney, go to King's Dominion instead, or just go to the Frontier Culture Museum, or just go hike the Blue Ridge. There's plenty of local things you can do that, whether it's, and we're just picking on Disney and the theme park stuff there, that you can spend it local rather than spending it on big corporations.
That's absolutely right. In fact, I'm originally from the middle of Pennsylvania. If you want to go up to Knoebels Grove,
sure.
I'm not sure that's how it's pronounced, but I loved that when I was a little boy. Take the kids up there.
Lines are shorter. Well, I guess it's sounding like the lines are getting shorter at Disney as well, Scott. So what's coming up next for you guys at the Free Enterprise Project? Are there still shareholder meetings going on, or are they winding down for the summer?
Well, gloriously, Memorial Day is about the end of the season. We've got maybe a half dozen left, but we get our lives back a little bit at Memorial Day weekend and dust ourselves off and write some new policy papers for next year and write some new proposals. And this year we'll be going to BlackRock and ISS and State Street and the others and say, this time last year you told us just do X, Y, and Z, and we'll finally start supporting some center-right proposals, something other than left ESG. And we've gotten through this season, and the batting average for those companies is still just about zero. And so we're thinking one of the things we want to look at this summer is whether it's time to start bringing some shareholder derivative lawsuits against these companies.
Interesting. And you mentioned lawsuits, and you triggered me. I'm going to tap into my childhood watching old Columbo reruns and say, pardon me, there was one more thing before I go. If I was truly unwoke, there'd be a butt of a cigar in between my fingers. But last week there was the Supreme Court, I think it was 7-2 ruling on the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And as Justice Alito writes, today's decision turns the appropriation clause into a minor vestige. The court upholds a novel statutory scheme under which the powerful Consumer Financial Protection Bureau may bankroll its own agenda without any congressional control or oversight. Now, of course, that's the dissenting opinion. But this is now the government creating out of whole cloth, it seems, this new regulatory scheme in which they can go after even retailers now, not necessarily even big corporations.
Yeah, I don't understand that decision. Our partners in a lot of lawsuits, we're suing the SEC 4 or 5 different ways right now. The New Civil Liberties Alliance, they had that case and they should have won it. And I don't understand what in the heck Justice Thomas and Coney Barrett were thinking. I think that Kavanaugh is kind of a squish, and Roberts, something went to his head at some point, but we should have at least gotten 4.
Right. And I wonder if all this assailing Clarence Thomas and Ginny Thomas hasn't had an impact on some of his decisions. He doesn't strike me as the kind of person who would do that, but certainly in a case like this, where Congress has clearly been behaving unconstitutionally, I thought that was the point of the Supreme Court, was to say, no, that was unconstitutional what you just did there, so you have to undo it all. But maybe that's a bad sign for our Chevron ruling to come. Scott, tea leaves to discuss. I don't know if you have a thought on that. Otherwise, we'll let you get into your Memorial Day weekend.
Well, I think I'm keeping my fingers crossed for Chevron being overturned. I think the tea leaves are good for that, and I think we're going to see a lot of these SEC overreaching, trying to control everything. A lot of that knocked down like 10 pins in the next for the rest of the year, and maybe the next 8 or 10 months.
Well, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Thank you so much, sir, and we'll talk to you again very soon down the road.
Absolutely. And sell me some of the shares of your new radio company. I want in on that.
There's 100 of them. My wife has 51, and I have 49.
Oh,
so, so as one of our station IDs says, yes, Joe's sleeping with the boss, but he has been for 30 years. So
there you go.
That's right. It's my career goal. I've always wanted to sleep with my boss. I've only ever worked for men, though, and that's just not been in my business model. So Scott,
these days you can always switch sides. It's all good.
Scott Shepard, the funniest man in conservative economics. Thank you, sir, and you have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend.
You as well, Joe, and love to the missus. Take care.
First impressions are everything, and your driveway is the first impression of your home. For your business, an attractive and spacious parking lot by Pyramid Paving will make you stand out from the crowd. Rely on the expertise of Pyramid Paving. Our team rejuvenates and enhances the appearance of your property, ensuring it stays fresh, contemporary, and enjoyable. Experience the artistry of our skilled craftsmen and elevate the functionality of your property. Contact Pyramid Paving today.
Hi, this is Joe Thomas. Join us Saturday morning at Gypsy Hill Park for Vets for Vets to raise money for the VFW in Stanton. Gypsy Hill Park, 10 a.m. It's not just Corvettes. Whatever your ride is, whether it's Mopar or a Mustang or even a hot hatchback, something that you drift with, come on down and show it off at Gypsy Hill Park. It's a $10 admission fee for your car. Dash plaques for the first 200 cars that join in on the celebration. There'll be music, food, and a live broadcast from me, Joe Thomas, in the morning. Gypsy Hill Park to kick off the Memorial Day weekend with Vets for Vets to raise money for the VFW in Central Virginia. Join us there at Gypsy Hill Park starting at 10 with Joe Thomas in the morning.
Your Thursday forecast calling for increasing clouds throughout the day with scattered showers and storms likely in the afternoon. Daytime highs in the mid-80s. Thursday night, scattered showers and storms before daylight. Otherwise, lows in the lower 60s. Friday through Sunday, we're looking for a chance of scattered afternoon and evening thunderstorms each day. Otherwise, partly to mostly sunny with daytime highs in the mid-80s. From BlueRidgeLife.com, I'm forecaster Tommy Stafford. Now, back to Joe Thomas in the morning.
Joe Thomas in the morning. Thank you for joining in and basking in this. A couple of folks asked the question, what's going to happen to the Rumble and the YouTube channels? We are working on whether to continue doing the video along with, but we're going to be on location in a lot of places. So I'm not sure how that's going to work, but we're going to you come up with a way that the Rumble and the YouTube channels are still going to be active there. They just may not have live feeds on him. But we're working on it. Spitballing. We're focus group meetings, and you know how that goes, So we will let you know how that happens as we get past Memorial Day weekend. Come on, brother. Let me just get through Memorial Day weekend. This is the first time since for many years I worked in Hyannis, Cape Cod. I certainly started my radio career in reality. I mean, there's 4 or 5 years kind of learning the system in the growth, and then we kind of hit the big time in the Hamptons of Long Island and spent 4 or 5 years in the Hamptons, and then went from there to Ocean City, Maryland. So it has been born into me that Memorial Day weekend is always this time of anxious nervousness and bordering on terror and all these things. And for many years, Charlottesville, not really, final exercises have happened. It's pretty much, it's a wonderful holiday to celebrate those who gave all for our freedoms, and it's good to put that back into perspective, and it's just not that first weekend when all the tourists are coming. This is the first Memorial Day weekend that I think I've had that, the need for that bordering on terror feel of like, okay. So ride along and see if you can hear it in my voice. I'm going to save this next story. There's this story out of Afton, Virginia, because there's more to it, and I want to get into how you get from there to here. But Augusta County is going to look for some block grant money to redevelop Afton, and that's not just this hotel, the Inn at Afton, but Nelson County is also gone out looking for block grant money for this project to renovate this hotel that had been, as you saw, Holiday Inn, there, top of the mountain there with Howard Johnson's restaurant. Now it's, look at it. And how does it get that way? I think there's a bigger story. How does it get that way? But it also talks about economic development, and ED problems are something that our elected officials have frequently, and they deal with them pretty much all in the same way. They look for taxpayer-funded economic development projects. And there was just a couple of stories that randomly popped up. Didn't reserve an entire segment of the program, but I think now as we add them together, Lynchburg is looking at an entertainment district project, as is Salem, looking at an entertainment district, again, taxpayer funded. This goes back into why we disagreed with Governor Youngkin and his entertainment district project out for the old railway yard by Reagan Airport, including an arena for the Wizards and the Capitals and Georgetown University, because they don't generally turn into anything. And I think the example of Charlottesville's downtown mall, which is, sorry for the retailers who are along there, an entertainment district, the cornerstones of it, either end, you have a big destination hotel, an Omni Hotel, and on the other end you have a music pavilion, an outdoor music venue that has continued to have some shows, but not nearly the number that they used to have. And this idea that you can create economic development by being an entertainment mecca. We see Bristol, Tennessee with their casinos in Virginia in a couple of locations. They continue to debate them in Petersburg. This idea of let's just get the people who do have money to come to our town and spend it in our restaurants and our hotels, I think is a little bit of a shrugging our shoulders, saying we can't make anything anymore. And go back to Scott's point about spend it local. Because these big multinational corporations, they have to be woke because they need to build things in France or China or Argentina, wherever. Although I did see Milei, the kind of libertarian free market president of Argentina, has now said he wants to kind of partner with the U.S. On some national defense. I don't think he's read the Monroe Doctrine yet, but maybe he should. But the idea of who should be redeveloping something, and the Afton Inn, or the Inn at Afton, has always been a puzzlement to me, and in much the same way the Dewdrop Inn on the Charlottesville downtown mall is a puzzlement to me. I mean, I understand when DuPont closes up and doesn't make carpets in Waynesboro anymore because they can make it cheaper in China and just pay a shipping company to belch bunker fuel smoke into the air to sail it across the Pacific. That's a little bit more understandable. Although, as I've pointed out, now that we're including Waynesboro and Stanton in this, ConAgra, Hosung Tire most recently, and the Ix textile facilities in the city of Charlottesville, and you add there the carpet factories in Waynesboro, and these are all products that we still use. This isn't like bemoaning the demise of the horseshoe industry in some town. Oh boy, we used to crank out horseshoes. These are all, as a matter of fact, the electric cars use tires faster than traditional internal combustion ones. We still feed animals, ConAgra. So the centralization has got to be addressed, because I think what we're watching is continuing this centralization. As with centralized government, we the people become smaller and smaller. And my point is it feeds the Marxists' agenda, because they go out and then they say, not a bug, but a feature, look at the big bad corporations, join us and go after them. So you always feel like you're out on a tightrope. But I'm going to try to put together something tomorrow where we go a little bit more into depth in how the Inn at Afton became this middle finger to authoritarians in government and the centralized planners and how it became what it is and the personalities that went into it. We're going to do that a little bit tomorrow morning. But thank you for joining in there with us for today. That's enough, and we will pack it in, and I'll probably try to get a little bit of a nap. Although, like I said, I slept a pretty good way on the way back from the Dixie Dregs concert. And if Steve Morse is watching, or any of the guys in the band, thank you. What an incredible show that was at the Warner Theater yesterday. They'll be back in the summer for another tour. If you've never seen them, there isn't a singer on stage. It's an entire rock concert without one person singing one song. So, with apologies to Roger Daltrey, sometimes it's not the singer, it is the song that makes the music move along. But until tomorrow morning at 6, so long, and thanks for all the fish.
First impressions are everything, and your driveway is the first impression of your home. For your business, an attractive and spacious parking lot by Pyramid Paving will make you stand out from the crowd. Rely on the expertise of Pyramid Paving. Our team rejuvenates and enhances the appearance of your property, ensuring it stays fresh, contemporary, and enjoyable. Experience the artistry of our skilled craftsmen and elevate the functionality of your property. Contact Pyramid Paving today.